to the Popish Plot. I'm Jessica. It's another episode of the Summer Book Club. This time it's on the Mass. Now, if you've been following along with the Summer Book Club, you know that a number of us Catholic YouTubers are reading the Handbook for Catholic Moms. And down below I'll have links in the description to everyone else's episode on this chapter. Right now we are on chapter 18 in the section on the soul, which is on Mass Matters. Now in this section she once again tells the story of the various churches she attended growing up, when she got married, when she had small children, what she did, what she would do differently now. Points out the fact that, the Mass is the source and summit of our faith, with communion being, as she pointed out from the catechism, life-giving. She then follows it up with ways to prepare for the Mass, including following the liturgical calendar, reading the Mass readings in advance, keeping Sunday holy, which she breaks up into 4 subsections, of attending as a family, as one of the things she regrets when her kids were young was that quite often due to her husband's schedule he didn't attend, or she let the kids go to the church babysitting group and other such things, which I don't know how they did things, but from this it sounds like they did a horrible job, because every church I've went to that has things like this where your kid either can go out to babysitting or liturgy of the word for children, or there's a cry room, it's a way in which they are still somehow involved in things. I mean, the babysitting for the very small children, it's just a way to let the parents actually pay attention to the Mass, but for everything else, like if you go into our cry room, which I was going to film this in, but there were people in it at the time, it's right near the front. You can totally see what's going on at the altar. They have an intercom so you can hear it. It's set up in a way to be helpful to the mothers and fathers that are there, but still very much church. There's a pew, but there's also some rocking chairs for if you're feeding your baby. There's books and things for the kids to play with, but they're all religious themed, therefore, like toddlers. So I don't know what they did wrong where she was at, but clearly they did something wrong. She then points out the next section, which she points out is controversial, of dressing appropriately. She notes it's better to dress casually and show up to Mass versus not because you don't have the clothes. But the rest of the section just kind of reminds me of like the 1950s stereotype idea where, yeah, that's good, but I'm not going to buy shoes that are just for church for my kids. I will buy shoes that are their dress-up shoes, and they can't wear them when they're out playing, but I don't expect to see a row of half a dozen children of small ages all dressed up in clothes that I look at and go, yeah, they're going to get dirty in 5 seconds. It's just not practical. I'm sure that's probably not what she's going for as the point, but it just, when I read it, I'm like, yeah, my kids never wore that white sweater they were given as a toddler, because it doesn't matter if I don't give them food or crayons, somehow that is going to get destroyed in 2 minutes. She then points out the importance of arriving early, which, having small children, there's always the kid that, is a baby and gets sick 5 seconds before you're going to leave, where they're not actually ill, they just throw up a lot and you have to change and you show up late. So I understand why she might say arrive 5 minutes early to Mass. However, back before we did screens and stuff, arriving 5 minutes early for Mass was we are late and someone is sitting in the spot that we usually sit in. Now, having done stuff where I'm setting up for the Mass, it's amazing. The church can be nearly empty 5 minutes before Mass starts, and then completely filled by the time the priest makes it up in the opening song. But if I'm going to tell someone to arrive early, I'm going to tell them more than 5 minutes. I mean, when I was first married and Nate was still a Protestant, he did not get the fact that, no, 10 to 15 minutes is the normal time to arrive early. If you arrive where I'm in the seat before the opening song begins, then you're sliding in at the last minute. So I appreciate that she says arrive early. Even with small kids, the goal was 15 minutes early. If we were late because things happened, we were 5 minutes early. And then she points out the importance of sitting close to the front, which with small children, they don't want to look at the back of people's heads all the time. So if you sit near the front, but at the aisle so you can get out without going over 20 different people, then yes, they can pay better attention than if you're sitting way in the back. And as always, it ends with homework and web resources. Now, the web resources are where you can get the Mass readings along with a couple of podcasts where different priests go and talk about the Mass readings and other things. So you can go and listen to the Mass readings ahead of time, listen to a reflection on it, get in a prayerful mood. The homework is find a way to attend a Mass with your family this weekend, read the readings in advance, do a Sunday journal to reflect on the Mass afterwards, and stop looking to get something out of Mass and start looking for ways to serve your parish. And I totally agree with the second part. And as she stated before, and I totally agree with, the Mass is the high point of our worship and our prayer life. However, it is completely understandable that if you go to a church, the music is horrid and played at a slow speed by people who don't know how to play music right. The hymns are semi-heretical, as I've been to many a parish where I'm like, it's on this slide of heresy. It's like they're so close. How did this get in the hymnal? And no, I'm not talking about my disagreement with the song Amazing Grace. The homilies stink, there's no community, and so forth, where, yes, we need to attend Mass. Yes, it's important. But I really wish she put more emphasis on, if you're able to, try to fix these things. Because I know from other groups and sites that quite often, the reason why people don't go to Mass is because it takes a lot of commitment to sit through an hour of completely insipid junk. And I've gone to Masses where I have to remind myself, I have to go. I have an obligation to go. I am offering this horrid Mass up because I am being tortured by having to attend it. And so forth. And it's one thing when I am visiting people where I'm only going to go there once, maybe once every few months. As you know, I happen to live in Michigan, and the western coast of Michigan is all largely very Calvinistic groups. You can go to a corner and there's the Christian Reformed Church, next to the Dutch Reformed Church, next to the First Reformed Church of whatever town you're in. And so the parishes there still act like it's the 1940s or 50s, and you've got to be in your own little church group and completely separated from everyone else because that's where there's safety. And they act like that's the evangelization method of, if you were born Catholic, you have to stay Catholic, so we don't have to do anything. Like play good music, or have inspiring homilies, or even actually follow the rules for the Mass up until the point in which there's never been anything so bad that I'm like, I have to write the bishop, but there's a number of things where I'm like, fairly certain that's against the rules. So, that is my one problem with this chapter, which is one of those things that grates at me, simply because I have to go and visit places like this and go, this is horrible. This is horrible. How is this hymn allowed in the hymnal? It is like this close to being heretical. And it seems like they're trying to imply that it is. Like, I know people go on about the guitar masses of the 60s and 70s, and I have no problem when our church plays guitars, because they're not playing songs that is essentially a less religious version of Kumbaya, which, if you know what Kumbaya means, apparently it's, Lord be with us, so it's somewhat religious. And if they are playing it, they're playing at the right speed. So, anyway, I'm going way off tangent, as Otherwise, this was a useful chapter on important information. It's just that one phrase that gets to me, because anyone who has gone to a church where you never get anything out of it noticeably, again, no matter how poorly it is done, if it is a valid mass, you of course get Jesus out of it, which is infinitely good. However, on the your senses can tell level, you're going, oh, please don't be that hymn. Please don't be that hymn. Oh, they're playing that hymn. They're playing at its speed so slow I can't sing it. Oh, the homily is about a sports story for sports I don't follow and has nothing to do with the readings, and so forth. Anyway, as I brought it up, comment below with your least favorite hymn that has lyrics that you look at and go, how in the world did a bishop approve this to be sung during the Mass? It can be an old song, it can be a new song, it could be a song that they play on the radio and your church plays without even paying attention to what the lyrics are. If you don't have a least favorite church song because your church plays excellent music and you listen to Christian radio, go ahead and join the debate about whether How He Loves Us should be Sloppy Wet or Unforeseen Kisses, or a third one, which I've heard one time and it made a lot of sense and was less horrible than the other two choices. However, I can't remember what it is. And until next time, live your faith, love your faith, share that love.